Today we're making a hawker classic oyster omelette or Orh Luak or Orh Jian. This is such a unique dish, a chewy, gooey starch stir-fried with eggs and tossed with oysters. This is also always served with a side of spicy sour sambal which goes so well with the oysters, and I'll be showing you that in this recipe too. Super quick and easy, so let's go! First, let's prepare our egg mixture first. We have some eggs here and we are seasoning the eggs with some fish sauce. You can also use light soy sauce if you don't have fish sauce, as well as some ground white pepper and some minced garlic. Give all of that a nice quick stir and keep that to one side. Okay, next, the oysters. I have here some frozen oysters, thawed of course. Now, if you want to use fresh oysters, you can. We are going to be seasoning the oysters with some of that ground white pepper, as well as a hint of the fish sauce. This is totally optional, okay? The hawker stalls don't actually season the oysters, I'm just extra. Don't like oysters? Then try a version with shrimps or prawns. In fact, that's what I always do, to be honest. And finally, the batter. First, we'll need tapioca starch. Now, this is what really creates that gooey, chewy texture. You'll also need some rice flour. Now, this is going to help to crisp up the batter. Then, I'm adding a pinch of salt so the batter has some taste. You can add more of that fish sauce if you want, an even easier way out, but I find that it's easy to go overboard with the fish sauce. And then water to make this into actual batter. Give all of that a good stir and you should get a liquidy batter just like this. Now, you want to make the batter right before making the oyster omelette. If left too long, I find that the batter sort of becomes gummy and not too pleasant to eat. Okay, and we are ready to cook. You want to assemble all of your ingredients nearby, just like this. I also have some spring onions and cilantro here as well. To a pan, add plenty of oil and you want to get this on a high heat. Before pouring in the batter, make sure you give it a good stir as the flours would have separated after a while. Once hot, drizzle in the batter into the pan, just like what I'm doing here. Basically, you want to add the batter one ladle at a time. You don't want to simply pour all of the batter in because this will just create a large, thick, gloopy pancake and you'll not get those nice, thin, crispy edges. Let this batter cook until you see the edges turn crispy. The middle will start to be translucent, just like this. This is good, okay? This is ooey gooey perfection. And then we are breaking this up into smaller chunks. Now the batter is super sticky and it will clump onto your one spatula, so I really recommend using two spatulas to help break it apart. You can also not break it apart, by the way, so that you'll have one big chewy pancake. I like having a good balance of crispy batter and chewiness. And also at the hawker stalls, they really usually break them up, so it's what I'm used to anyway. Once you have a few separate chunks with crispy edges, pour in half of your egg mixture. Don't have to be precise about it, just eyeball. And then let the bottom of the omelette set before trying to flip it over to the other side to evenly cook. Now I say try because chances are you won't be able to gracefully flip the whole thing over because of the sticky batter. So just basically flip the pieces to the other side to evenly cook. You know, you get it. Once the eggs set, pour in the other half of the eggs. Again, you want to kind of break it apart and flip it over for a more even cook. Once your eggs are cooked, and this is totally optional, but I like to add more oil here. The hawker ones are usually extremely oily from the excessive use of pork lard, but since we don't use the lard, we just use lots of extra oil. You can keep this healthier without using the oil, okay? So yeah, totally optional. Anyway, add the oysters. Gently toss through so you don't break the oysters apart. Now the oysters take just a minute or so to cook, so once they're done, turn off the heat and then give it a nice good garnishing of spring onions as well as cilantro. And your oyster omelette is officially done. So next, let's make our spicy, tangy sour sambal from scratch. To a blender, add dried chili paste, shallots or onion, garlic, belacan or fermented dried shrimp paste, as well as dried shrimps soaked in some warm water. Give all of that a nice blend, add water if needed to blend it easier, and then this is what you should get. To a pan, add plenty of oil, and then add our blended sambal paste and saute the sambal over low heat until the oil breaks or splits. This is when you see the oil has kind of turned red and is sort of floating on top of the paste. The paste would also be slightly dried up, just like this. And then go ahead and season this with some salt, as well as sugar. And your sambal is almost done. The final step is to actually add the vinegar. I do a 1:1 ratio, so 1 tablespoon of sambal to 1 tablespoon of vinegar. If you prefer a less tangy sambal, then do a 1:2 ratio, but do a 1:1 ratio. The tanginess goes so well with the oysters. And our oyster omelette is done. Chewy, crispy pancake with eggs and a hit of oysters dipped in a spicy, tangy chili sauce. This is such a uniquely Singaporean hawker classic. So I really hope you give this easy recipe a quick go, and bye! Want to try more Singapore seafood hawker classics? Then click on any of these recipes now.